The Jungle Book by Matthew Reinhardt. On a very warm evening in the Siccon Hills, deep in the jungle of India, Father Wolf woke from his day's rest. Mother Wolf lay with her 4 tumblings, squealing cubs. The moon shone into the cave where they all lived. "Shh," Mother Wolf whispered to her cubs. "I hear Shere Khan, the tiger, frightening all the animals in the jungle." Father Wolf listened. He heard the low whine of Shere Khan, the fearsome tiger. The bushes rustled in the thicket, and Father Wolf crouched, ready to leap. But right in front of him stood a naked baby who could just walk, as soft and as dimpled a baby as ever came to a wolf's cave at night. He looked up at Father Wolf and laughed. "Look, a baby!" Father Wolf cried. "A man's cub." Father Wolf's jaws closed gently on the child's back so not a tooth scratched the skin, and he laid the baby down among his cubs. "How little and how bold," said Mother Wolf softly. The baby was pushing his way between the cubs to get closer to the warm hide. "Ha! Now, was there ever a wolf that could boast of a man's cub among her children?" "He is as hairless as a frog," said Father Wolf, "but he looks up and is not afraid." Just then the moonlight was blocked as Shere Khan thrust his great square head and shoulders into the mouth of the cave. "My quarry," commanded Shere Khan. "Give it to me." Father Wolf knew that the mouth of the cave was much too narrow for a tiger to come in. Still, Shere Khan's roar filled the cave with thunder. Mother Wolf sprang forward, her eyes like 2 green moons in the darkness, facing the tiger. "The man's cub is mine. He shall hunt with the pack, and in the end he shall hunt you. Go." Shere Khan could not stand up against Mother Wolf, for he knew she would fight to the death for one of her own. So he backed out of the cave and growled, "We will see what the pack will say. The cub is mine, and to my teeth he will come in the end. Lie still, little frog." Mother Wolf said to the baby, "Oh, my Mowgli, for Mowgli was the frog I will call you." The law of the jungle states very clear that as soon as the wolf's cubs are old enough, they must be brought to the pack council so that the other wolves may identify them as part of the pack. Afterwards, the cubs are free to run where they please. After a time, Father Wolf and Mother Wolf took Mowgli and his 4 brothers to the council rock, a hilltop covered with stones and boulders. Akela, the great lone wolf, who led the pack by cunning, lay out on his rock, and below him sat 40 or more wolves. Father Wolf pushed Mowgli to the frog to the center, where he sat laughing and playing with some pebbles that glistened in the moonlight. A muffled roar came up from behind the rocks. The voice of Shere Khan. "I have been waiting for him. The cub is mine. Give him to me." There was a chorus of deep growls, and a young wolf flung a question to Akela. "What have we wolves to do with a man's cub?" There was no answer. Mother Wolf prepared for a fight. Then Baloo, the sleepy brown bear, and teacher of the law of the jungle, rose upon his headquarters and grunted. "I speak for the man's cub," he said. "There is no harm in a man's cub. I myself will teach him." A black shadow dropped down in the circle. It was Bagheera the Black Panther, inky black all over. Everybody knew Bagheera, and nobody cared to cross his path, for he was as cunning as a jackal, as bold as the wild buffalo, and as reckless as the wounded elephant. "Oh, free people," he purred, with a voice as soft as wild honey dripping from a tree. "To kill a naked cub is a shame. I will accept the man's cub according to the law. Akila's deep bay answered for the pack. Look, willow wolves, this is a cub of the pack. Then each wolf came to look at Mowgli one by one. Shere Khan roared in the night, for he was very angry Mowgli had not been handed over. "I roar well," said Bagheera, "for the time will come when this naked thing will make you roar to another tune." Baloo was teaching Mowgli the law of the jungle and the tongue of the jungle people, and the big old bear was delighted to have such a quick pupil. Sometimes Bagheera the Black Panther would come to visit while Mowgli recited the day's lesson to Baloo, but Mowgli soon grew bored of his teacher. Shouting, Mowgli declared, "I shall have a tribe of my own and lead them through the branches all day long. They promised me." Mowgli said to Baloo sternly, "Have you been talking with the monkey people?" "The monkeys come down from the trees, gave me nuts, and they carried me in their arms up to the top of the trees," Mowgli said. "They said I was their blood brother, and I should be their leader." "Listen, man cub," said the bear, rumbling like thunder on a hot night. "I have taught you about all the creatures of the jungle except the monkey people. They are lawless outcasts. We have no dealings with them." Meanwhile, in the tree branches above, a group of eavesdropping monkeys decided to strike. Mowgli felt strong little hands on his legs and arms, then a swash of branches in his face. Two of the strongest monkeys caught Mowgli under the arms and swung him within through the treetops. Chasing after Mowgli, captors Baloo and Bagheera were furious with rage and grief. "We need Kaa's help. The monkey people fear Kaa, the rock python. He can climb as they can. The whisper of his name makes their wicked tails cold," said Baloo. They found Kaa stretched out on a warm ledge in the afternoon sun, twisting the 30 feet of his body into fantastic knots. Kaa was not a poisonous snake, but his strength lay in his crushing hug. "We have trouble, Kaa," cried Baloo. "Those nut stealers have stolen away our man cub," said Kaa. "The monkey people are always into trouble, but luckily they fear me. We must go to the lost city. Few of the jungle people ever went to the lost city because it was deserted and buried deep in the jungle." Bagheera hurried forward at the quick pace while Baloo made an effort to follow. Kaa poured himself along the ground, finding the shortest road with his steady eyes. In the lost city, the monkeys joined hands and danced about and sang their foolish songs. "We are the most wonderful people in all the jungle. We all say so, and it must be true," they sang. As sore, sleepy, and hungry as he was, Mowgli could not help but laugh at their foolishness. Then his head spun toward a noise. Suddenly, Bagheera struck right and left amongst the monkeys seated around Mowgli. There was a howl of fright and rage, and a scuffing mass of monkeys fighting and scratching closed over Bagheera. 5 monkeys dragged a startled Mowgli up the wall and pushed him through a hole. From deep in the jungle rose up the rumbling war shout of Baloo. The angry bear swatted the monkeys from the weary panther's back, but more and more attacked. Then the mighty Kaa slithered into view. Upon seeing the giant python, the monkeys ran in terror to the walls and the roofs of the houses. Baloo drew a deep breath of relief, for he had suffered sorely in the fight. A graceful Mowgli turned and saw the great python's head swaying a foot above his own. "We are one blood, you and I, Kaa," Mowgli answered. The python dropped his head lightly for a minute onto Mowgli's shoulder. "A brave heart and a curious tongue," said Kaa. "They shall carry you far through the jungle manling." Kaa had changed his skin, for perhaps the 200th time since his birth, and Mowgli went to congratulate him. Skin changing always makes a snake moody and depressed until the new skin begins to shine and look beautiful. As they sat by the river, a hurrying cobra slipped down over a rock, drank, greeted them, and went away. Curious, Mowgli asked, "Do you have many dealings with the poisonous snake people?" "They carry death in the tooth, but they are so small." 3 or 4 moons ago," said Kaa, "I hunted in the lost city and came upon a white cobra who showed me many things I had never before seen. The White Hood said that a man would give the breath under his ribs for only the sight of those things." "Show me," cried Mowgli, and with the adventure in mind, the two set off to the desert. Lost City. Kaa led the way through the ruins. They found themselves in a large vault whose dune roof had been broken away by tree roots so that only a few streaks of light pierced the darkness. "Who is this boy?" said a voice in the middle of the vault, talking or talk through a man's lips. Mowgli saw something white move. There was the largest cobra he had ever set eyes upon, a creature nearly 8 feet long, bleached ivory with eyes that were as red as rubies. "Mowgli, they call me," the boy answered. "I am of the jungle. The wolves are my people, and Kaa here is my brother. Who are you?" "I guard the king's treasure. Earth has no treasure like these. Man with the snake's treasure like these. Man with the snake's tongue. If you can leave this place alive, even kings will be your servants." The floor of the vault was buried some 5 or 6 feet deep in coined gold and silver that had burst from the sacks they had been originally stored in. Mowgli did not understand the value of the treasures, but one object buried in the coins interested him. It was an ankus decorated with a shining ruby and pictures of elephants. "The things are hard and cold, but I wish to take this," said Mowgli. "Can I have it?" Then Mowgli tripped and picked up something white and smooth. "It is a man's skull," he said quietly. "They came to take the treasure away many years ago," the white cobra hissed. Mowgli quickly flung the ankus behind the snake's hood, pinning him to the floor. In a flash, Kaa, who was hiding, threw his weight upon the cobra's rolling body. Mowgli forced open its mouth and saw the terrible poison fangs lying black and withered in the gum. The white cobra no longer had any poison. "Be warned, the ankus brings suffering and pain," hissed the white cobra. Mowgli and Kaa left the withered white hood behind and crawled out. Mowgli made the ankus glitter in the morning light until he came to Bagheera. The Black Panther sniffed at the ankus while Mowgli described his adventure. "Man made this thing to hurt elephants and teach them man's law," Bagheera said. "Having neither claws nor teeth, men make these terrible things. If I had known this," said Mowgli disgustedly, "I would not have taken it." Mowgli grew up with the other wolves and took his place with them at the council rock. With his hands he would pick the long thorns out of his pads of their feet, for wolves suffer terribly from thorns. At night Mowgli would go down the hillside and look very curiously at the villagers in their huts. But growing up in the jungle, he had mistrust of men. Bagheera, who had eyes and ears everywhere, told Mowgli that Shere Khan, the tiger, would come for him. Mowgli laughed. "I have the pack and I have you. Even lazy Baloo might strike a blow for my sake. Why should I be afraid? Open your eyes, little brother. Akela is old and soon he will be leader no more. Many of the wolves believe a man cub has no place with the pack. Then Shere Khan will strike. Then leaping up, Bagheera said, I have it. Go down quickly to the men's huts in the valley and take some of the red flowers that they grow there. That will protect you. Bagheera meant fire. Every beast lives in a deadly fear of it and invents 100 ways of describing it. Mowgli dashed into the croplands where the villagers lived. At the window of a hut, Mowgli pressed his face closed and watched the fire on the earth. Then he took a wicked pot, filled it with lumps of red-hot charcoal, and disappeared with it back into the mist of the jungle. The red flower will die if I do not give it things to eat, Mowgli said. He dropped dried bark into the fire and showed the pot to Bagheera. Soon, at Council Rock, where all gathered were together, Shere Khan appeared, as Bagheera had predicted and warned. He was mine from the first. Give me the man cub. Mowgli sprang to his feet. Oh, free people, he cried. Does Shere Khan lead the pack? The leadership of the pack is with the pack alone. There were yells from the other wolves of the... Silence, man cub. Mowgli stood upright, the fire pot in his hands. Then he stretched out his arm. He was furious with rage and sore, surprised the other wolves had not stood up for him. He flung the fire pot onto the ground, and some of the red coal lit a tuft of dried moss. All the wolves drew back in terror at the leaping flames. Mowgli thrust a dead branch into the fire until it lit, and then whirled it above his head among the cowering wolves. Because I was your brother. Me, said Mowgli. Then Mowgli strode forward to where Shere Khan sat blinking stupidly at the flames and caught him by the tough old chin. The tiger whimpered in fear as Mowgli beat him over the head with the branch. Pass, sang Jungle Cat. Go now. And for the rest, go, screamed the boy. Mowgli swung the burning branch at the retreating tiger and wolves, who were frightened at the burning of their fur. Only Akela, Bagheera, and his brother wolves remained beside Mowgli. Then something began to hurt Mowgli inside, and he sobbed. For the first time, tears ran down his face. What is this? Mowgli said, touching his face. Am I sick, Bagheera? These are tears, little brother. Let them fall, said Bagheera. So Mowgli cried as though his heart would break. Perhaps I do not belong here, Mowgli said. I must go. The dawn was beginning to break when Mowgli went down the hillside alone to meet those mysterious things called men. Mowgli pushed open the village gates. When the first villagers saw him, Mowgli opened his mouth and pointed to show that he wanted food. The man stared and ran back up the street of the village shouting. Soon 100 people crowded around him. Poor child, one woman cried. He has eyes like red fire. By my honor, Misa, he looks like your boy that was taken by the tiger. A small woman squeezed past the crowd. Let me look, said Misa, and she peered at Mowgli under the palm of her hand. Indeed, he is not, but he has the look of my boy. The villagers parted as Musa beckoned Mowgli to her hut, where she gave him milk and some bread. You are not my son, but you are very like him. I will call you Natho. Mowgli was uneasy at first, and for the first 3 months he hardly ever left the village, but he busily learned the ways of men. Soon the village headman sent Mowgli out with other boys to tend the cattle and herd them while they grazed. At night Mowgli went to sit in a circle under the great fig tree and listen to the old village hunters buildio. The boastful man told wonderful tales of gods, ghosts, and the ways of beasts in the jungle, until the eyes of the children bulged out their heads. Mowgli knew Bulgio's stories were lies, and had to cover his face not to show he was laughing. All evening I have been listening, muttered Mowgli, and you have not said one word of truth. Is that the jungle, brat? Asked Buldeo. Talk not when the elders speak. The next morning, Mowgli and a few boys took the cattle out to graze. From deep in the jungle, Gray Brother, one of his 4 wolf brothers, and old Akela came to him. Shere Khan is back, Brother Mowgli. Gray Brother panted and waded ahead to attack you in the big, dry ravine. I am not afraid of Shere Khan, said Mowgli, and he stood thinking. The big ravine opens out on the plain not half a mile from here. I have a plan. Separating the herd into 2, Mowgli and the 2 wolves ran in and out of the startled cattle. Once started, there was no chance of stopping the raging stampede. Seeing the boy, Shere Khan charged forward, but a torrent of black horns, foaming muzzles, and staring eyes rolled down the ravine like boulders. It was there Shere Khan met his end, for the terrible charge of the buffalo herd is a foe that no tiger can hope to stand. The children soon told the villagers about the stampede, and Buldeo went out angrily, anxious to scold Mowgli for not taking better care of the herd. The wolves hid as soon as they saw the man coming. What is this bully boy? Buldeo said firmly. There is an old war between this tiger and myself, and I have won, Mowgli said. Then Buldeo found himself surrounded by the 2 growling wolves. Thinking the boy's control of the wolves was magic of the worst kind, Buldeo stood still, expecting Mowgli to turn into a wolf. When he did not, the old hunter hobbled away to the village as fast as he could, where he spun a tale of enchantment and sorcery about Mowgli, the devil child. Perhaps the jungle is my home, Mowgli said, and he walked with his wolf companions deep into the jungle. On the night Mang, the bat, came flapping through the trees and said, "The village of the Man-Pack hums like a hornet's nest. The red flower blooms at the village, and men carry guns. Little brother, a man with a gun follows your trail." Bagheera sprang to his feet and thrust up his head as far as he could, sniffed and stiffened through every curve in his body. They ran through the jungle and saw the old man with a musketeer on his shoulder. "Buldeo," said Mowgli, hunkering down, "look! The hunter has convinced the village that our brother is dangerous and have sent him out to hunt the devil childs," Mang said. "And the villagers have captured a woman named Musa. They wish to torture Musa and make her confess she is a witch." Mang kept watch overhead, and Mowgli ran into the village and to Musa's hut. When the boy looked through the window, he saw Musa bound hand and foot, and tied and cut her bindings. Musa sobbed and hugged Mowgli close. Up to the time Mowgli had been brave in his rescue, but now he began to tremble all over. "Whose work is this?" said he. "There is a price to pay." "The work of all the village," replied Musa. "They believe Budo's lies. They think I am a witch because I gave you shelter." "You are free," said Mowgli as he pointed through the window. "Take the road through the jungle. Go now." "Do you know the trail to the other village 30 miles from here?" Musa nodded. "Remember not to be afraid," Mowgli whispered. As they left the hut, Mowgli pointed her to the path, bounding through the brush. Bagheera soon joined him. "Pah!" Bagheera grunted as he joined Mowgli. "This place stinks of man. Let us forget them," said Bagheera. Soon the 2 friends came upon the mighty elephant Hathi and his 3 sons. "Do you see the village of the Man-Pack? They are senseless and cruel. Hathi, you must help me. Let in the jungle upon the village. We have to quarrel with them," said Hathi doubtfully. "What harm do you intend?" Mowgli loved Musa as completely as he hated the rest of mankind, but he could not bring himself to take life in revenge. "Let them find a new home," said Mowgli. "I do not wish to hurt them, but I want them to go away forever. Let in the jungle." "Ah," cried Hathi, "I understand. Your war shall be our war." Then the elephants turned and strode silently down the village. It was dark when Hathi and his sons slipped down from the jungle. Hathi plucked the roofs of huts with a squeal and leaned against them, left and right. All of the villagers, dumb with horror, fled down the valley as their village shredded, tossed and trampled, melted behind them. A month later, the village was a dimple mound covered with soft green moss and leaves, and by the end of the rains, only jungle remained. At nearly 17 years old, Mowgli had gained strength and growth far beyond his age. The jungle people who used to fear him for his wits feared him now for his strength as well. And yet the look in his eyes was always gentle. The jungle people were very busy in the spring, and all seemed to speak at once. This is why it is called Time of New Talk. But that spring, Mowgli's stomach had changed in him. "I've eaten good food," he said to himself. "I have drunk good water. But my stomach is heavy. I am hot and then I am cold, and angry at what I cannot see. I will look," he said, "as I did in the old days, to see how Man-Pack has changed." On the outskirts of a new village, Mowgli watched wordlessly, remembering the cruelty of the other Man-Pack. The door of the hut opened, and a familiar woman stood peering out into the darkness. "MATHEW, come, my son," she called. And Mowgli stepped into the light, looking full at Musa. She was older and her hair was gray, but her eyes and her voice had not changed. As he stood in the red light of the oil lamp, strong, tall, and beautiful, with his long black hair sweeping over his shoulders, Mowgli spoke. "I am not MATHEW. I am Mowgli. I am very far from home, but I saw the light and came." Musa gladly took him in, and Mowgli sat with his face in his hands. Many strange feelings ran through him, and he felt dizzy. He knew his home was in the jungle, but things felt right with Musa in the village. After many days with Musa, Gray Brother visited the hut and whined a muffled howl of anxiety. "I followed your trail," Gray Brother said, "but Brother Mowgli, what have you done? Come back to the Man-Pack." Gray Brother trotted away from Musa's hut and snapped over his shoulder. "Have you forgotten your home?" Mowgli followed thinking. Gray Brother ran back into the jungle crying, "I'll come to Council Rock." But when Mowgli, heavy-hearted, came up through the familiar rocks, he found only his 4 brother wolves, Baloo nearly blind with age, and the heavy coiled Ka. "The red flower is in my body, and my bones are water, and I do not know what to do," cried Mowgli, his head in his hands. Baloo spoke slowly, turning to Mowgli. "I said it. Ka knows also. When we meet at Lost City Manling, I knew it," said Ka. "The man cub returns to his kind in the end, but the jungle does not cast him out." His 4 brothers looked at one another and at Mowgli, puzzled. "My brothers, I do not want to leave," sobbed Mowgli, throwing up his arms, "but I am drawn by both feet." "Dearest, listen to me," said Baloo. "Nothing here can hold you back. The man cub no longer asks to leave his pack. As master of the jungle, you may change your path as you please." His words were cut short by a roar and a crash in the thicket below, and Bagheera, strong and terrible as always, stood before him. He licked Mowgli's feet. "Remember, Bagheera loves you," he said, and bounded away. At the foot of the hill he roared long and loud. "Go now, O wise little frog," said Baloo. "It is time for you to go." With That Mowgli turned and left the pack at Council Rock, and 3 years later he married and had children of his own. He never forgot his jungle family, and the jungle always remembered him. The end.